Moving on in this segment on digital transformation across sectors, joining us now will be Mohammed Al Alami, Corporate Business Development Lead at Tap Payments. He's going to enlighten us about um, how to scale your business through payments, the fragmented MENA payment landscape, and other factors to consider. Right. Welcome, Mohammed.
Thank you so much, Prasnav. How's everyone doing today?
Yeah.
Hope I hope you're all enjoying the API Days events. It's been very interesting to listen to the other speakers to date. Very enlightening. So just to kick things off, as introduced, I'm going to be talking about how to scale your business today, focusing on the fragmented payment landscape in the MENA region, and some other factors that you should consider, not just for your customers, but also for your business partners, and for to ensure that your business succeeds in the most crucial way. Because as we all understand, when we talk about payments, there's there you would accept losing out a customer because of a lack of product offering that would give you something to work on, marketing that would give you something to work on, or any other business process. But to lose out a customer in the last stage when they've already decided to choose you and win you over, and miss out on that last stage is not acceptable for any business, and it could determine the survival of that business, especially if you're talking about startups and SMEs in the MENA market. So, so just to start things off, any business, whenever they want to launch, they start small, and starting small means they start locally. And once they can grow and they create a nice, healthy environment in a local market, they decide to scale regionally, then globally. Focused, obviously, if you're in the GCC market, you start in one of these countries and then you scale into the other countries in the GCC, and then you want to scale even further to the rest of the MENA region. And obviously markets like Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt are the most, let's say, interactive, most opportunistic markets in today's market, especially in the MENA region. So talking about the MENA customer, first, there are two types of behaviors that we need to identify. First is prior to the pandemic, where cash was ruling all. In the MENA region, everybody preferred to pay cash. I myself, I don't think, since back in the pre-COVID days, it was difficult for anyone to pay online due to the lack of trust, and the dominance of the in-store purchases, right? And when you and shopping online prior to the pandemic was just didn't have much trust. You don't know if you would ever receive your funds back if you paid online. You don't know if the product that you ordered would be up to scratch, and in the same time, you're worried if it gets delivered or not. And this is problems not just the average consumer but face, but I'm sure many people listening into this call, and me personally, we've faced this all prior to the pandemic. And obviously, the number one headache when it comes to ordering online is the refunds, right? Let's say you managed to return your order, it wasn't up to scratch, and issuing refunds, not just from a customer's point of view, but from a business point of view, could also be a nightmare. And then what happened? COVID hit. All businesses were forced to go online. The race started. If you were not online, you did not survive. It's that simple. Especially when you talk about the startups and SMEs who didn't have, let's say, the cash flow or support needed to last long during the COVID lockdowns, and actually sell and reach their customers. So first thing everybody started doing was going online, and with that, the surge of businesses to enable those other businesses to go online, to basically become an e-commerce business, grew a lot. For example, there started a lot of platforms grew and started up, especially in this part of the world. Shopify, WooCommerce, very old platforms, but now because of COVID, you could see the surge in the users. Post COVID, even the launch of new companies such as Zid and Zida, Zoho as well, which was doing incredible just to support all of the businesses in the region to make sure that everybody had everything they needed, not just for e-commerce, but also any online business process, instead of going from the old manual way, being in the office, using certain manual processes, and actually getting more online support with online products, whether it's a website builder, CRMs, inventory management, accounting solution, just a whole support solution for e-commerce businesses. And then obviously the last mile delivery to ensure that all products get delivered not just on time, but at the highest, fastest way possible, and to ensure that no products get lost or stolen in the meantime. And after that, obviously, online payments became more secure. There was a lot of focus on improving not just the payment experience, but also improving payment infrastructure, regulations, and security, especially when it comes from the government support. The whole vision that came from two examples, the UAE and Saudi, which was also replicated in other countries in the GCC and the MENA region, which is we want to have a cashless economy, right? And in order to have a cashless economy, they had the government support behind it, and businesses, consumers, envision of this government vision for 2030 or Expo 2020. I think that we're talking about 2030, which is still 8 years down the line, and we're still very close to achieving that mark, especially in Saudi Arabia. But not only that, when you talk about regulations, basically the rules and in an ecosystem for all businesses to operate in a healthy way, a very secure way, and also to up to a certain standard or quality, to ensure that all payment companies are able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, all last mile delivery platform, all the ecosystem and for e-commerce businesses had all the support needed to operate in the highest level. And mainly it's not just for the businesses, but mainly for the average consumer living in these countries. So because of that, consumer security and protection was at an all-time high. If you did not receive an order, today it's much easier to get your rights, your funds back refunded, or if the product was never delivered, or even issuing a chargeback with your bank to make sure that your funds hit your account has never been more proven. And also the fraud management and anti-money laundering support that came in with this has been very high post-COVID. So now I'm just going to be talking about just MENA commerce in general as well. So if you want to look at the ecosystem in the MENA region, internet penetration has never been higher. We're even higher than the global average to date. And if you want to look at also purchasing power in the GCC, so when I say purchasing power, it's basically the decision that an average consumer living in the GCC takes to actually make a payment, to make a decision to buy something, whether it's online or physically in any store, because of a campaign that was launched, or from once they're made aware of a product that's available, and taking the decision is in an all-time high. The GCC not just rivals, but in my opinion even beats some other countries like the US and the UK when it comes to the purchasing power decision making. Also, if you want to look at after the COVID boom, COVID came in 2020. Even after that huge boom that happened, you can even see an additional growth in 2021 of 35% in the MENA region within the e-commerce landscape. And it's not a secret anymore. Where cash was king, now cash is phasing out. And in fact, only 10% of the people in the MENA region still prefer to pay with cash. The rest go for digital payments, with around 58% right now preferring to pay online using a card or alternative payment methods such as Apple Pay and buy now pay later. And I'll go through that a bit more in detail in a bit. Also, the rise of buy now pay later has been massive. If you want to talk about 2022, we expect it to increase from by another almost 100% just in 2022. Even again after the boom, after everything happened, the introduction of buy now pay later in this part of the world, it's been massive for merchants operating online today. So now I'm going to be talking a bit more about the fragmented MENA landscape, just to give you a bit of an idea of what are the payment methods that exist in today's market. How can you as a business succeed and ensure that you have all the payment options that your customers love? Because like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, you don't want to miss out on a customer because of a lack of payment acceptance, right? So if we talk about the GCC, Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon as the main markets in the MENA region, and we talk about networks, So Visa, Mastercard, American Express, I'm sure everyone on this call has heard of them because they're everywhere. They're international networks, and if you support them, then at least it can gives you an idea that, you know what, I can operate on an international level and support these methods. But the differences in the GCC, where there's around, like under 60 million population in 6 countries, the market's very, very fragmented. Like, I'm sure a lot of people on this call, if they've never been to Saudi Arabia, if you've never operated locally in Saudi Arabia, you might have never heard of Meda. But Meda is the local debit network in Saudi Arabia, which means that if anyone who has a debit account would be issued a card from their bank, which is called a debit card. And usually the cards, especially in the UAE and international markets, would be branded by Visa, Mastercard, American Express. However, in Saudi Arabia, there's a local network called Meda. In Kuwait, there's a network called Knet. In Bahrain, there's a network called Benefit. And then in the other countries as well, you have NAPS in Qatar, Oman Net in Oman, Meza, which is a local network recently launched in Egypt. And it goes to show that there's a lot of different local alternatives that you need to focus on. And then if you want to take it another step further, there are alternative payment methods. I'm sure everyone's heard of Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, all of them. But then there are the local ones such as SEC Pay and Benefit Pay. And also the new rise of Kareem operating as a fintech today and ensuring that all their customers can use Kareem Pay to pay online in the UAE. And then there's Egypt. In Egypt, there's another alternative payment method called Fawri, which I'll talk about all of them in detail. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of questions on a lot of them if you've never heard of them before. And I'll make sure that by the end of this presentation, we can all leave as experts on payments in the region. So moving on, just to show you the kind of the full picture, ensure that you have all your customers to pay with everything that they want to pay with, all the options that they would prefer to use online, ensuring that they can pay with everything. These are all the payment methods in the MENA region. So as I promised, going into detail about each one, just experiencing the payment, not just the payment experience, but also the value and the importance of offering the local payment methods in the region. So starting with Saudi Arabia and Meda. So as you can see on the screen, there are 43.5 million cards issued in Saudi Arabia, and 39 of that number is 39 million are branded for Meda, and around 4.5 million cards are going to be credit cards, which are going to be branded for Visa, Mastercard. So this can give you an idea, saying that if you don't support Meda in Saudi Arabia, you're going to be missing out on a lot of customers in that country. But not only that, if I give you a stat about the number of cards, or let's say the number of transactions for all the networks in Saudi Arabia, 95% of all transactions made by cards were actually from Meda. So moving on to another example in Kuwait for Knet, you can see it's very similar, the behavior, with 4.9 million cards issued in total. 4.1 is Knet cards, and 800,000 is going to be for credit card, Visa, Mastercard. And just to show you another thing, saying, okay, you know what, a lot of these cards, they're important, but how's the experience like? And that's another thing that you need to be very aware of, because if I'm living in Kuwait and I'm used to paying with my Knet card, my Knet debit card, then when I check out, the experience is also different. It's not just adding, the digits and the CVV and the expiry date of your card, but it even goes further. And I'll show you a quick live example. So when you're checking out, first of all, you need to select the bank that you're working with. So if your bank was issued, by Al Ahli Bank and Rajhi, any of the Kuwaiti banks, you need to select which bank it was first. And then you can see there's a drop-down menu right next to the card number. And there's going to be a list of, let's say, 6 digits that your card is going to start with, depending on the bank that you choose. And then you add the rest of the card details, add the expiry date, as you would do with any international card checkout. And then you would also go and add a PIN, which is the same PIN that you would usually use to withdraw funds from an ATM, or when you pay physically with a card, sometimes you need to add a PIN, and you need to add it for an online checkout, which, at least in my experience in the UAE and international markets, is not something that you do. And then you confirm your card details and everything in order, and you're done. So I also want to show you a little bit more about Fawri, as I explained to you before. So Fawri is an alternative payment method in Egypt, and this is not a debit network. It's not an international network. What it is basically a cash reference system. Okay, and the way it works is because in Egypt the population majority, which is around 30% of the population over the age of 15, have a bank account. So that leaves a lot of individuals living in Egypt, who want to purchase orders online, who want to buy online, are unable to do so because of, let's say, a lack of card acceptance, right? Because they don't have cards to pay with. So what they do is they would first, when they're checking out, this is just a quick example of their experience. They would select Fawri as an option to pay, and as soon as they select Fawri, they would get this page. So they would get an order code, and then they would go to, you can see a link below this saying the store locator. So there's around 225,000 different locations in Egypt where you can go down to the nearest supermarket, any location which supports Fawri, make the payment in cash and give them the code. And as soon as you do that, they will confirm that the payment has been made and the online transaction or online payment has been completed. And now you've officially bought online using cash through Fawri. So just to also show you some different stats with the card usages in every country, you can see that in the majority of the GCC countries, if not all of them, debit cards are dominating credit cards. You can see 95 versus 5 in Saudi, 94 versus 6 in Kuwait, and so on. And you can see in the UAE is probably the only market that operates as close as possible to the international markets, with the debit cards and credit cards, becoming much closer to each other. And it's just a good example to show you about the experience and for the MENA consumer in the market. So after all of this, understanding the MENA consumer behavior, whether they want to pay with cash or through card payments or alternative payment methods, the next thing that you need to think about is how can you enable a seamless payment experience for these customers. And as I explained, first, all the payment options which your customers love need to be provided. Second is ensuring that they can pay with any currency. There's because the world has become a lot smaller. A lot of people travel a lot, even if they're based in the UAE, they might want to pay with their Kuwaiti KNET card, and they want to pay in KD, and it just allows you to also target individuals on a massive scale if you offer them more options and to allow them to pay in the currency that they prefer. Second is streamlining the refund process, to make sure that it's not just easy for them to get refunded back their funds, but also for you as a merchant to offer quick and seamless refunds is going to be very key. Because again, from my personal experience, I'm sure a lot of people listening in would say the same. How many of you enjoy doing refunds in today's world? I'm sure no one would say yes. If you do, then we need to check you into a mental hospital, right? And the reason for that is because it's not a fun experience. It's very tiresome. You worry if they've actually refunded the amount or not. You might have not received a message from the bank. It's a whole hassle. So ensuring that this process is seamless is key. Another thing, and this is to avoid refunds and chargebacks, is something called authorize. So basically, what this means is when any purchase happens, a transaction occurs, instead of charging the card, as in confirming that you have taken the amount out of their account and it's en route to your account, instead you can authorize the amount, which basically places a hold on the amount of the transaction in their account, but the amount hasn't left their account, right? So what this allows you to do is it allows you to confirm, for example, do I have inventory left on this order? Can I process this order in the location that they're asking for? Whatever the reason is, for you to, it just gives you time, before going back and saying to the customer, we can do it or we can't do it. And if you can't do it, instead of issuing a refund, all you would need to do is void the transaction, basically canceling it, and it's as if the money never left their account, right? So again, it cancels out the need for a refund, the charges that comes with it, and even chargebacks if it ever comes to that, and makes it a much more seamless experience. And then the fraud management, ensuring that your customers are protected. They make a payment online, their card details are not stolen and used somewhere else. And then finally, to streamline your operations for you and your partners. Now we hear a lot about marketplaces, growing, and basically what a marketplace does is you onboard suppliers, you onboard businesses just like any merchant would, and then you would do a KYC for them. KYC stands for Know Your Customers for those who are not sure. And then you need to accept payments to make sure that their products and their company products and services are being sold, and you're accepting payments from it. And then what happens after? There's either a percentage revenue share where you split the payments, so 90% goes to you, for 90% goes to the customer or the partner, and then 10% goes to you as the marketplace owner. And then also doing reconciliations, is very important to make sure none of the financial operations are halted, and then paying out to make sure that all the customer, all your partners receive their funds at the earliest times as well. So that's my presentation for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. Be more than happy to answer.
Thanks, Mohammed. That was a comprehensive overview. So you touched upon BNPL there. So the question is, how real is it? Is it a fad, or is it something which is drowning a section of the customers, a customer segment, into more and more debts? Is it profitable to the payment organizations or for the banks?
It's a great question. It's a great question. From our point of view, first of all, as a payment company, it's another payment option, right? That's the first thing. So if individuals would prefer to pay later, it gives them the flexibility for it, and that's always key. Second, it's what's the customer going to lose, right? The customer is not going to pay interest. So if they're using a credit card and they want to pay later through the card, there's usually interest involved. There's usually heavy fees if you don't pay on time, and so on. However, with buy now pay later companies, it offers the flexibility, the freedom, and let's say the interest-free transactions as well. And at the same time, it has become a platform. If you go to any buy now pay later website, you would see unlimited number of merchants who are offering not only an option for you to buy now and pay later, but also discounts if you're using that platform. So it generates a lot of, let's say, business for merchants, and that's why it's becoming very popular. If this wasn't a winning formula, then it would have failed from day one. But you could see that this is something that has been picking up massively. As I mentioned also in my presentation, just in 2022, it's expected to double, increase by 100% in usage and the customers. And you will never find a problem from any customer saying, I don't want to pay with a buy now, pay later. You have nothing to lose. It's that simple,
Right. But I mean, if you look at the global trends, the stock values of leading players were going down, or else in India, for example, one of the leading players brought in post 30 days, they are charging interest. So the rules of the game are changing. The players are. I mean, I won't say this is an innovation. They're just changing the rules, right?
And
So yes,
absolutely, no,
yep.
absolutely. Just on the stocks, I think all the stocks are going down today.
I know.
There's I don't think that if you focus on buy now pay later, I think it's very clear that it's here to stay. I think that it's growing. I don't think that at least in our experience working with thousands and thousands of merchants, they're looking for buy now pay later. Their customers want to pay with it. So I think I disagree. I think that yes, the rules are changing for any business, not just buy now pay later, but it's here to stay, and it's definitely going to keep growing, especially in this market.
Great. So, yep. Thanks a lot for joining us here at API Days Dubai, and sharing your
My
uh,
pleasure.
great overview on the payments market in MENA, and also responding to this question. It's a question I believe some people may not want to answer itself, right?
No,
Yes.
100%. And thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you.